Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel, it's Shania. So today we're doing another wrap up. Another month has passed, of course, and this month was a very confusing month, I have to say, like just all over the place. I started out the month with spring break, and now we're like kind of still in spring break because now I'm online with all my classes and everything's just all confusing and messed up. And you think that I would have read a lot more because I had a lot more free time this month, but did I? No, because Animal Crossing took over my life. I feel like every other booktuber, because it just is an obsession that I started and I just can't put it down for some reason. And books have basically been put on the back burner. So if any of you are like me and have put reading to the side and are just playing the game, let me know down below because I need to know where my Animal Crossing friends are out there. So let me know down below. I don't really need to say much more because you guys know how these wrap-ups work. So let's just get started. Alright, so if you guys are new here, how I organize my wrap-ups is I first give you guys my monthly statistics, and I also compare it to the month before, and then I'll get into each individual book and give you guys my thoughts, as well as giving you guys my ratings on a 5-star scale. So for my stats in the month of March, I read a total of 10 books, which is the same amount that I read in February, and of those 10 books, I read a total of 2,953 pages. Among those 10 books, 6 of them were predominantly fantasy books, 1 was a mystery, 1 was nonfiction, and 2 were romance. However, I will safely say that all of those books do have romance as a subgenre in some sort of form. And lastly, for my rating on a 5-star scale, I had an average of 3.55 stars, which is actually higher than what I had in February, which was 2.7. Alright, so those are all my statistics for the month of March, and moving on to the very first book that I read this month, it was my most anticipated book not only for the month of March but also for the entire year, and that was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. So this is an urban fantasy that follows our main character, Bryce Quinlan, who is viewed by others as a party girl. She just likes to go out and have a good time along with her best friend Danica, and they live in this type of city that's very similar to what we have in today's society, but it is, of course, with a bunch of fantasy type creatures. We have fae, we have angels, we have demons, we have shapeshifters, all the type of fantasy creatures you can imagine are in this book. One night, Bryce goes out with some friends and is just having a good time at a club, but when she comes home, she finds a demon has murdered her closest friends, and she just goes into a very deep state of depression. We fast forward 2 years, and the murders that happened that night have yet to be solved, and we're introduced to fallen angel Hunt Athalar, who gets paired with Bryce to solve the mystery behind these murders, and throughout the book, we are just seeing them trying to uncover the truth on what happened that night 2 years prior. I will say that Sarah has grown exponentially when it comes to this book with her writing, and if you guys haven't liked any of Sarah J. Maas's books in the past, I think you guys should try this one because you might enjoy it, because she has grown a lot, and a lot of the problems that people have found in her other books, she's kind of dealt with that in a new way with this one, so I think people might be surprised with this one. What I really loved about this book was Bryce's character and also her best friend Danica's character. I loved the way that she brought the party girl lifestyle in and made it like an okay thing, and that people judge a little too harshly when they shouldn't. I also love the character development in this, but that's one of my favorite things about Sarah J. Maas. I think that she hits character development so well, and this book is no exception to that. I don't want to talk about this book too much because I've already done a full extensive spoiler-free review on my channel, so I'll have that linked for you guys if you want to go check it out and hear more about my thoughts in regards to this book. But just know that I really enjoyed this one a lot. It wasn't my all-time favorite Sarah J. Maas book, but I do want to reread this one at some point because I feel like I was analyzing it probably a little bit too critically, and I think I need to give it another shot. But overall, I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. Like I said, I loved the character development, and I also just really liked the world that Sarah built. Alright, so the next book that I read this month was another one of my most anticipated releases of 2020, and that was The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. So this book is categorized as a Slytherin romance, and honestly I don't really understand that because I've never heard of that before, but I think what it means is that this is a very dark romance that deals with a fairy tale type setting where we have this land that is being ruled by the Shadow King, and we have a bunch of people who are trying to overthrow his reign. Among those people, we have our main character, Alessandra, who is tired of the life that she currently has. She's always been in the shadow of her older sister, and when she first fell in love, she was denied by the person that she was in love with, and so she decided to kill him. And after that, she was just tired of being treated like she was beneath people, so she comes up with a plan to woo the Shadow King and make him fall in love with her and then marry her, and then she's gonna kill him and take his reign. So she'll become the queen and she'll have all this power. And I think that's where the Slytherin part comes in, because she is power hungry and she wants to be the most powerful individual in the world, and that's what Slytherin's like. The writing style in this book is super odd. It's very straightforward, clean cut, like there's no bullshitting in between. It's just kind of given to you and that's it. And I was kind of turned off by that writing at first. I would say like after the first 50 pages, I put the book down and I just wasn't feeling it. But I ended up picking it back up and I really enjoyed it. So if you guys are in the same boat as I was, I would just say continue on. I know it's hard, but just continue on because it gets a lot better. There were times in this book where I felt like the author was trying to make our main character, Alessandra, more badass than she actually was, and I just felt like it was a little bit forced there, but I ended up really enjoying her character regardless. I thought that she was very driven and focused, and she knew what she wanted, and I had to respect her for that. So overall, I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I have to say, I'm very satisfied with this being one of my most anticipated releases of the year. Alright, so the next book that I read this month was The Guy in the Middle by Kate Stewart. This is the 3rd book in the Underdog series by Kate Stewart, and honestly, this one was kind of a disappointment for me because I was really looking forward to getting to know more about these characters, but I just didn't vibe with them as much as I would have liked. This is a college-age romance that deals with a football player and his relationship with the coach's daughter. So you can tell right there that we have some problems because the dad does not want her daughter dating any of the football players whatsoever, so we have an extreme complication there. I don't want to give away too much just in case you guys haven't read the first 2, but I will say that you guys don't have to read these books in order. Kate Stewart does a really good job of making sure that nothing gets spoiled in the previous 2 books if you read the 3rd book or read any of them out of order. However, I read all of them in order, and I will say that the first one is still my all-time favorite, and I felt like the series kind of went downhill with each book that came out. The entire first half of the book is mostly just like smut, and then the second half is just conflict resolution, and I just didn't really feel like the characters really connected. I felt like some of the humor that was in the book was kind of forced, and it wasn't flowing as good as the first 2 books were. Overall, I ended up giving this book 2 out of 5 stars. Like I said, it was almost a DNF, so I just didn't think it was going to be rated very high, but just because I liked the series and because the characters in the very first 2 were mentioned in this book, and since we got to see another perspective on certain situations in the book, I thought it was really interesting, so I gave it 2 stars for that reason. Alright, so for my nonfiction book, I have to say that I don't normally read nonfiction books, and I was really happy that I read this one, however, but I will also say that this book was DNF for quite some time, and I didn't really mean to. I just put it down and I didn't pick it back up, but we finally did. We finally finished it, and that book is Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered by Karen Kilgraf and Georgia Hardstark. So I actually don't have the dust jacket for this one because 1, I lost it, and 2, I think it actually looks better without the dust jacket because the cover is just not that great and it looks prettier without it. So anyways, I'm really glad that I finally picked up this book because my friend absolutely loves My Favorite Murder, and if you guys know anything about Karen and Georgia, they are on a podcast called My Favorite Murder. It's very popular, and if you guys haven't listened to it, you guys definitely should. And if you guys love true crime, it's definitely a podcast for you. But anyways, this is their very first novel that they wrote together, and this is kind of like a self-help autobiography of their lives. They just kind of tell you about how they had all these hardships growing up and how they came to be and how they had their podcast formed, and it's really inspiring when they talk about certain things like therapy and all of the troubles that they had with their mom or being broke growing up. It's really inspiring, and I loved the way that they wrote it. It was hilarious. I will say that there is some crude humor in this, but that's just how Georgia and Karen are. So I think if you guys are looking for a really unique self-help nonfiction autobiography, whatever you want to call it, you guys should definitely check this one out. Even if you guys haven't listened to the podcast, I think that this is still really interesting, and maybe it'll even give you guys more of a background on the two of them, and you guys will be more knowledgeable when you guys actually go and listen to the podcast. One of my favorite sections in this book is this one, which is You're in a Cult, Call Your Dad. I don't know, I really liked this one also because I love this graphic and I love the cult reference, but I think that this book is really good, and overall I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. So definitely check it out if you guys are in the market for a book like this. Alright, so the next book that I read this month was The Headmaster by Tiffany Reyes, after I saw Riley Marie mention it on her channel, and I was like really interested. I had already had it marked as something that I wanted to read at some point, but she kind of gave me that like extra push to finally read it, and I have to say I really enjoyed this one. This is a mystery romance, so we have a young woman who's traveling across the country in search of a new teaching job, and she comes across this one remote school that is called the Marshall School, and she meets the headmaster named Edwin York, who is very sexy and very chivalrous. He's just an ultimate gentleman, and they have a budding romance right off the bat, but underneath that we also have the mystery happening. So I don't really want to give away anything else because the mystery is really, really good, and so is the romance, and I definitely recommend this one if you guys are looking for something along those lines that is very short, because I think that this book was only like 140 pages or something. It was a very short read. So I highly recommend it because there is a little twist at the end that you guys may or may not expect. Who knows? But I had a lot of fun with this one, and I think that is a book that is very unique. I don't think I've ever read anything like it before, and it's going to stick with me for a while. So for this book, I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars, and I will recommend it to anybody because it is very, very good. Okay, so moving on, the next 4 books that I read this month are part of a series, and they're actually really short, so don't give me much credit for reading a 4-book series because they are like all 100 pages or less, and that is the Faye's Captive series by Lily Archer. So for the very first book, we have Faye's Captive, and this one I really enjoyed just right off the bat. I loved this one because it has a very slow burn romance. Love that. It has a mating bond between 2 people. Love that. And there's a lot of sexual tension in this as well. So much steam. It's just insane. This is a fantasy series that deals with our main character who ends up getting drugged by her roommate, and when she wakes up, she's no longer in the human world, she is in the Fae world, but she's in captivity, and she ends up getting sold to this man or this lord as a changeling slave. But before he gets possession of her, she meets her mate, and the mating bond clicks, and the mate that she has is the Winter King. He's the king of the Winter Realm, and I think like in the book there's only 2 realms. There's the Spring Realm and the Winter Realm. He's the king of one of them. So yeah, they end up having a mating bond, and he takes her away from being sold as a slave, and they travel throughout the kingdom to the Winter Realm. And that's literally the entire series, is them traveling to the Winter Realm. Besides that though, it's just, there's so much sexual tension in each book, you guys. It's such a slow burn, so good, and it's not very long. So you guys can knock this series out probably in a day if you really tried. For the first book, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and then for the second book, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The third one, I gave 3 out of 5 stars, and then the last one, I also gave 3 out of 5 stars. This series is all on Kindle Unlimited, so if you're looking for a short romance read that has a little bit of a mating bond in there you go. Guys, you definitely should check it out because it's pretty good. Honestly, it could have been just one whole book. It didn't need to be split into 4 novellas, but that's alright. We're just gonna deal with this, and we're gonna love it. So, there is Faye's Captive. Alright, so for the very last book that I read in the month of March, we have A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. So I'm not gonna lie, I read this one just because there's a lot of hype behind this one, especially with the second one most recently coming out, and I didn't really enjoy this one as much as I would have thought. This book is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so we have Harper, who is living in Washington, D.C., and one day she gets taken by this mysterious man, and she wakes up in a foreign land, which is a fae land. Wow, we have a lot of kidnapping that I'm reading this month. But anyways, so Harper wakes up and she meets Prince Ren, who is cursed as a beast, of course, and his curse is that he needs to have someone fall in love with him. Beauty and the Beast, yes. But we have troubles with that, of course, and yeah, you could just imagine how this goes. But anyways, I just didn't enjoy this as much as I thought. I, at first, was having a good time with it, and then I just kind of lost interest. But towards the end, I thought it got a lot better. I thought that the way they handled the curse was really interesting. But however, I found out that the second one doesn't deal with the same characters. And I don't know why, but that just like ruins books for me when the characters change if it's a series. Like, I get that their timeline is done and that's fine, but I just don't like that. I only like that if it's like a romance series and romance is just that's it. But when it comes to like a fantasy series, I don't like that. So honestly, we'll see if I read the second one, which is A Heart So Fierce and Broken. We'll see. I own it, so I probably will read it at some point, but this one just kind of was a disappointment for me. I ended up giving this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. I just got really bored. I think that's really what it was. I got really bored with this one throughout it, and there was nothing happening that I was like, oh, this is so cool. No, it was just like a basic fairy tale retelling, and that was that. Okay, you guys, so those are all the books that I read in March. It was a decent month, I would say, of reading. I think it could have been better, but I still had 2 books that I was really anticipating for the year, and I had a good time with both of them. So I think that makes it a very solid month. I'm also really looking forward to April because I have a readathon that I am co-hosting, the Pantanathon, and I also have a very anticipated book coming out, which is Imagine Me by Tahira Mafi. So very excited for the month of April, so cannot wait. And if you guys have any recommendations that you think I should add to my TBR in the month of April or onwards, let me know down below in the comments, and let me know what your guys' favorite book was for the month of March. I'm really interested. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. I would love it if you joined the family, and if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and also hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I upload. But again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!